Marvel Studios just released 2 new trailers at CCXP, and they revealed several huge things coming to the MCU. Kevin Feige seems to be kicking off Phase 5 with a bang, but it also seems like it could be a sad phase. Still, the resounding talk out there about the new Guardians of the Galaxy trailer and the Quantumania trailer is that they seem super hyped up, and it seems like the MCU moving into Phase 5 is going to be much better and much more familiar to us than what we got in Phase 4. So let's start by breaking down the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer, then we'll break down the Quantumania trailer, and we'll sort of end by talking about how this all fits together to make Marvel fans pretty happy boys and girls. So the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer begins with the crew in their new ship, the Bowie, named after David Bowie, flying into what appears to be Earth. They land in a suburban neighborhood only to come out of their ship and be greeted by a bunch of animal, alien, human hybrids. Now, according to the rumorverse, this is Counter-Earth from Marvel Comics, an entire planet created by the High Evolutionary to be a more perfect version of the world where he was born. And the High Evolutionary is a geneticist, a scientist, and an immortal that's forever experimenting on different organisms. And the motivations for the High Evolutionary are actually kind of perfectly spelled out by the speech that the actor gave when he actually came out in front of everybody at a recent Comic-Con. And so he sees all these organisms as flawed and wants to perfect them. He wants to create the perfect beings. He wants to create the perfect Earth. And of course, the Guardians of the Galaxy, being a ragtag group of degenerates, are probably going to really get on his nerves. Now, all these hybrid people are probably the new men from the comics, which were, again, experiments. He's trying to go for perfection, and the High Evolutionary will probably eliminate the new men if they fail to meet his standards, and perhaps he even tests them. Now, the Guardians themselves seem to have a major upgrade here. Of course, there's dialogue from Quill talking about how the galaxy still needs saving, but their ship looks massive. Their outfits look really good and upgraded, and of course, they also operate out of nowhere. They were able to buy Nowhere from the Collector, which is still kind of confusing to me because didn't he die in Endgame? But regardless, this seems to be the new and improved Guardians of the Galaxy with much more resources. Now, Drax slams this little girl with this ball way too hard, and then all of the citizens start throwing rocks at the Guardians. Obviously, they're not very welcome. We then cut to some shots of Peter Quill, and yeah, he looks big sad. It's making a lot of sense as to why Mantis tried to cheer him up with the Kevin Bacon thing, because my man is in a rut. My man is depressed. Now, Mantis is telling Peter not to forget where they came from, and I think they're talking about ego. And I believe this will probably come from a portion in the film where she is trying to get Peter to actually help the people of Counter-Earth and to stop the High Evolutionary. I'm sure she sees a lot of similarities between the High Evolutionary and their crazy celestial father, Ego the Living Planet. We then cut to a shot of what looks to be baby Rocket Raccoon being taken out of a cell or into captivity. And then that cuts to a shot of adult Rocket seemingly having all of this sink in and understanding that he was likely created by the High Evolutionary. We then cut to the crew wearing a weird Teletubby color-coded space suit getup, and they seem to be jumping into some weird alien-looking vortex space base, maybe the operating place of the High Evolutionary. We then cut to a shot of 2014 Gamora, and she appears to be wearing Ravager garb. This means she's probably with the Ravengers, and this is kind of fun because the 2014 version of Gamora is much more like the Gamora from the comic books. She's savage, she's brutal, and hopefully we get to see her just doing her thing. We cut to a shot of the crew walking with Peter Quill, seemingly unconscious, and we think this is back on Nowhere. Get a shot where Rocket says he's done running in a really emotional way. This might be before some kind of crazy big battle or after they've taken some losses and they're going to go back and try to defeat the High Evolutionary. Get an external shot of that weird squid-looking base that the High Evolutionary is likely operating out of, and it's kind of weird that it's all organic looking, but then again, he is a geneticist. he does work with organic material. And we see a shot of him watching probably one of his creations running on this hamster wheel looking treadmill, and this is likely a test to see if he has actually created a new perfect being. And by the way, my idea here is that this could actually be Phyla-Vell, and that's really based on nothing other than me just hearing that maybe Phyla-Vell might be in this movie. Get an action shot of Gamora, and again, she's looking tough as nails. Then we got to some kind of a prison scene here. Again, a lot of weird organic material, and even some spacesuits are seen in the background of this shot. So perhaps this is later on in the movie after they've all been imprisoned or made to work for the High Evolutionary. And Drax here obviously looks like he sustained some kind of major injury. Get a shot of the Bowie ripping through some kind of a weird portal, and a couple of shots of them in the Teletubbies looking spacesuits jumping on the organic material around this base. Rocket saying some heavy emotional stuff about how we'll all fly away together. Again, a shot of Peter Quill jumping and grabbing somebody and leaping out of a building. There's a shot of Groot and Peter running away from the Bowie, which appears to be crashing into the ground. A shot of Nebula celebrating with other people back on Nowhere. The High Evolutionary in some kind of a room looking pissed as hell, and there even seems to be some particles indicating an explosion or a fire. Some kind of scalpel or instrument dripping with blood, and then a shot of Peter Quill having an incredible emotional reaction, probably to a death in the film. And, you know, we've heard that they filmed all kinds of deaths with many of the different characters to try to throw different people off. I don't even know if that's true. They might just know who's actually going to die in this movie. And yeah, it definitely seems like we're going to be encountering some death in the movie. My money is on Drax. We then get a shot of Rocket meeting Lila, or embracing Lila, who is like an otter version of him and his love interest in the comics. The crew being stopped by some other weird teethed looking alien thing, which actually resembles a monster they've fought in the past and maybe has been recreated by the High Evolutionary. And then we get our first shot of Adam Warlock, and fans seem to be a little bit split on his portrayal here. I think he looks really good, although the armor is maybe a little overly intricate, and it's taking away from like the golden skinned goodness that you would think would come with Adam Warlock. I mean, Adam Warlock is literally supposed to be like a perfect being. So I don't know if the armor here is doing him any favors, but I actually like the look from Will Coulter here, and I'm incredibly interested in what is actually in his forehead. In Marvel Comics, this is the Soul Gem, but that can't be the Soul Gem, so I don't know what it is, but hopefully it's cool. You see a shot of him punching a Nebula, and he seems to be incredibly adept at fighting. We hear Groot say, "We are Groot." We watch as Mantis is crying, and then we get a shot of the entire crew with Gamora walking through some fire and rubble. We next get my favorite shot in the trailer of Peter Quill and Groot back to back firing all kinds of weapons, and Groot has like 8 different guns here. It looks absolutely incredible. We get the logo for Volume 3, and then we end with a classic comedy scene with the Guardians and Drax wanting to kill people. And I gotta say, I thought this was an incredible first trailer for Guardians Volume 3, and I think James Gunn has something really special cooked up for these characters. This is going to be the closing of a chapter, the closing of a trilogy of the first 3 Guardians movies, and likely the closing of James Gunn's time at Marvel, at least for the foreseeable future, as he is now heading over to take over DC. At the same time, it also seems to be opening a new chapter, telling a new story, and setting up some really cool stuff, and I absolutely believe that the Guardians of the Galaxy will last past this film and be a major player in the MCU in the years to come. I even think Adam Warlock will probably join this new team of Guardians at the end of the film. And you'll probably have Cosmo and a lot of characters from the original squad. And that just seems super cool. I'm excited for this film, but I'm also excited for the future of the Guardians. And the High Evolutionary is a really interesting character in Marvel Comics. He has ties to a lot of different things back on Earth as well as on Counter-Earth. And it's going to be really interesting to see what the MCU adaptation of this character does. Is this going to be a major player? Is he going to be connecting several big dots for the MCU's canon? Or is he going to be treated as something of a one-off villain that doesn't have a lot of the things that he had in the comics? Either way, I think the big thing here is that Marvel fans are really excited to get our first look at Guardians Volume 3, and it looks legitimately very, very good. Now, when it comes to the Ant-Man Quantumania trailer, there's not a ton of stuff to actually break down in the trailer, but I did want to mention how interesting it is that the first minute and 30 seconds of the Ant-Man trailer uses a ton of footage of Ant-Man interacting with the past Avengers. And I think this is done for a very specific reason. I think Kevin Feige wants to kick Phase 5 off in a really, really good way and also remind us of all of the greatness of the first 3 phases of the Infinity Saga. And, you know, maybe it's just the fact that these 2 big movies and trailers that were released are with characters that come from the Infinity Saga, but this really felt like a return to form, and I think many fans are expressing how excited they are to get back to characters that they have established and that they already have a connection to. And the inclusion of the Avengers here, it really reminds me of a trailer that was done before The Rise of Skywalker that had all of these incredible moments from throughout the Skywalker saga, all of these old moments. It was actually a brilliant trailer that was sort of meant to evoke all of these feelings of nostalgia and this feeling that what was going to come next was going to be a continuation of what had come before. So it really feels like Marvel Studios is trying to recapture that energy and try to get fans excited about what's to come and how it's going to connect to the past. It's also really interesting that Kang is going to be the main villain of this movie and is likely going to be the main villain of the next 2 Avengers films as well. And this is a character that via time travel can literally connect to the movies of the past and the past of the MCU. But with Secret Wars looming, we're also expecting to see some of the characters that were shown in this trailer back in Secret Wars. Most notably, of course, Black Widow, Chris Evans, Captain America, and Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. And I also really like how the first part of the trailer is mirrored or reflected on by Kang in the second half of the trailer. I mean, Kang literally tells him, Scott, I've seen it. Everything you're holding on to, everything you're trying to protect, your reality. I know how it ends. You're out of your league, Ant-Man. And it's kind of like especially creepy when you realize that the entire Infinity Saga was basically handcrafted by a variant of Kang the Conqueror that had won the first multiversal war. There's just a lot going on in this trailer. I think maybe on the surface, it just looks like a fun, nostalgic sort of throwback that then teases a little bit more of a thing we've already had a lot of trailers for. But I personally feel like there's way more operating here, and it's very exciting to see this attention to detail and a lot of the possibilities pop up via this trailer released by Marvel Studios. And I just feel like Marvel Studios is doing everything they need to do to sort of turn fans around and get us re-excited about Marvel moving forward. Phase 4 had its moments, but it was widely considered to be a lackluster phase, and the lack of connective tissue, seeming direction for how this is all going to tie together, man, it really did hurt the experience for a lot of fans. And for them to have 3 great presentations this year talking a lot about the future, introducing the next 2 Avenger film titles at San Diego Comic-Con, at D23 talking about major reveals, awesome changes coming to the MCU, and then of course this presentation at CCXP dropping 2 juicy trailers, not just for the people there, but publicly released via their social media, ready to go, waiting in the wings for fans to experience them. Again, they're just playing at a very high level, and I really feel as though there's a lot of energy coming out from these trailers that have fans very, very excited about Phase 5, Phase 6, and the future of Marvel Studios. So let me know what you think about these 2 trailers, and do you agree that the vibes are strong and it feels like the MCU is back, baby? Let me know in the comment section below. Smash a like on this video if you had a good time watching it. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and our live streaming channel so you have a chance to win the dope, nerdy stuff we give away each month. If you want to watch more, why not check out this video I recently did about Ultron coming back to the MCU in live action?